Recording in progress.
Brahms Piano Trio number 1, teaching video, part 2. So today we're going to be looking at mostly page 2. Now in the last video, in video 1, we went all the way to measure 23. 23 is at the top of page 2. So we're going to be starting into measure 24 and continuing onward. So remember the last time we left off, the left hand was down here in a C5 finger scale, starting with pinky on C2. And the right hand it was in a C5 finger scale, but now in measure 24, we see a 3 on B. Very interesting. So again, I've been saying this is going to kind of push you to get out of C position. This is kind of strange. So let's take a look at the right hand first. We've got B, B flat, A. Now those fingerings, right? We got a 3, 2, 1. That's not too bad. Let's go ahead and keep going with the right hand though for a little way. Then we go back to the B flat, A, C, C, B, C. Interesting. So really the right hand there is not very hard, just a little bit strange, out of, comfort zone position. Now the left hand, we're already in a C5 finger scale. You might be looking at the notes in the left hand in measure 24 and thinking, I don't know what these are. Remember the bottom line guide note. The bottom line is G. Say it with me. We'll say the bottom line is G. The bass clef bottom line is G. So, and actually let's open it here. Let's scroll down. There we go. So if the bottom line is G, then we know that this note right here is ta-da, G. And this one is also ta-da, G. Now we can see that these bottom two notes are not the same. This one right here is different from this one. Okay, so we see that G is the same for the top two. Now, what about this distance right here? How far apart are those notes? Is that a step or a skip? Well, that's a skip, and we know the top line is G, so G, skip, down, G, skip, down. That's a third. G and E. Okay, so what about the pink one then? We know that that's not a third. Are the notes further apart or closer together? Well, they're a little bit further apart, but only by one note, so that's a fourth. So if the top note is G, then that's going to be, the bottom note's going to be a D, right? So we've got, ooh, interesting. So I've got D and G, and E and G. Nice. Now this next little section, I kind of debated a bit on what to say in terms of the left hand. We're kind of in C position. I mean, we have been, right? This next little section coming up here, I'll make it blue. I find myself really preferring to stay kind of in C position and just play these notes with fingers 4 and 1. I'll show you what that looks like. So measure 24 we had D and G, E and G. Now the next little section will have D, A, D, A. That's what I feel is comfortable. If you want to slide your hand up, go for it. That's fine too. But I kind of stay here. I think it's more comfortable. All right, so now let me put those hands together though for measures 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, that little section. In fact, I'll highlight that there, whoops, with blue. So I'll start here and play until I get to that next section that has that nice pattern. All right, so this part right here. 3 on B. resting. So there's that section. I do anticipate that one's going to be a little bit tricky. Give it lots of practice. I mean, set aside a day where you say, I'm just going to tackle these measures. I'm going to play the right hand. I'm going to play the left hand. I'm going to slowly put them together. I'm going to start speeding it up. If you practice it enough, your fingers, they just memorize it. They know exactly where to go. It's muscle memory. All it takes is a little bit of elbow grease, and you'll be on your way. Now, the next section, I am so hoping that you are comfortable with an octave. This section is going to have us going back and forth between 2 Gs. For my hand, that's perfectly fine. I'm fine with an octave. I don't have huge hands for an adult. My hands are kind of small. In fact, an octave is the largest interval that I can comfortably reach. I can reach a ninth, but that's a little bit more of a stretch. So if you can very easily and comfortably reach an octave while stretching and touching both of the Gs, that's great. If not, we can still work with it. We're just going to have to do a little bit more rocking motion back and forth. You see the wrist right here, there's wrist rotation involved. And there should be wrist rotation involved even if you can reach both of them. There's still some wrist motion that's kind of coming from here. But especially if you can't actually reach both of the Gs, you'll need to kind of rock back and forth, which is a little bit more tricky. But again, there are many, many, many young pianists that have no problem with passages that have octaves. You know, you just have to practice it like anything. All right, so remember in measure 26, 27, 28, 29, measure 29, the bottom line is G, right? The bottom line is G. And now my right hand has come back up. Wow. I mean, especially if you can comfortably reach an octave, that's pretty straightforward. That part's pretty easy. And then we get into our... Now, hopefully you are familiar with accent marks. If you're not, it's a very simple concept. Let me just point them out to you right here. Now, I have not been, really digging into things like the dynamics and the crescendos and things, but I will point out these accent marks. That just means kind of punch it. Those are going to be some really strong notes there. Right now, that section, I mean, you can read that. You can read that. It'll be fine. Let's see. Going on into the next line. Ooh. In measure 36, we have... Again, that part, pretty straightforward. I mean, there's an F sharp in there, but you can handle an F sharp. That's not a problem. Now we've got the fortissimo section, which is very loud. And that kind of leads into the next section as well. But I'll go ahead and close the camera or close the screen share here so you can watch me play that part. So starting from measure 43 with the fortissimo, the FF, we've got a third in the left hand, and then we're just going to stretch up for the F and A, come back to the fifth, and then we have finger 2 on G sharp. Now, G sharp is not a note that we see very commonly, but we know a sharp means a half step higher. So if you see a G with a sharp, we're going to go to the half step above a G, which is the middle of 3 black keys. So we're going to cross finger 2 over to 1, 2, and then reposition back into C position. I really do think this is the best fingering. It is a little bit weird because you're kind of awkwardly leaving a C position and then having to jump back into it. In my opinion, I don't really think there's a better way of fingering that passage. If you come up with something and you really genuinely believe it's better, feel free to submit that to me for review, and I will tell you yes or no. But the finger 2 makes the most sense. All right. So the right hand, you notice when I played the F and the A, I'm kind of leaving my thumb here as an anchor. G. I'm not pressing it. It almost looked like I was pressing it, but I got the G, F and A, E and G. A rest. B and E, C and E, C and D. And I'm going to go into the top of page 3 just a wee bit. Got B and D. Rest. Now that one's a little bit strange. We got the E and the F sharp. Basically, all of these are notes that you definitely can figure out. You can read them. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show the left hand for the top of page 3. We start out with a 6th in measure 47, with a B and a G. And then we have another 6th, but it's higher, C and A. To stop. So that's kind of part 2 of the teaching video. Hopefully part 1 is going really well for you already. Practice, practice. If you identify any sticky spots where you keep making the same mistake, mark it. Circle it, put parentheses around it, practice it 10 times, 20 times. I mean, if you have a short section that's, 2 or 3 measures long that's tricky, practice it 20 times. That might sound crazy, but how long is that really going to take? It's not going to take that long. You might not need to do 20 times, but practice it until you feel like it's easy. Take anything that's hard and make it easy just by practicing it. All right, well, happy practicing, part 2.